Saludos, saludos, mi gente. Welcome back to the Latino Dad Connection podcast. Thank you so much for joining me in this new podcast. My name is Efrain Reyes, and I am your host for this podcast as always. Our mission here, if you're new, is to really inspire fathers to move forward and create their own legacy. And our vision is to create a community of men and fathers that are here to support each other through this fatherhood journey. I do want to recognize that I haven't been posting as much on this podcast. We have been a little busy, and life has been busy for me with my family, my job, and other projects that I have going on here at Latino Dad Connection. Some of the things that we've been doing recently in April, we had our annual Guerreros Rising retreat over in Lucerne Valley. We had about 15 fathers, 15 men joining us for the 3 day experience. It was an amazing, healing, and deep experience with my brothers, and looking forward to having many more of that. And then in June, we had our first ever Fatherhood Connection Summit here in Santa Ana. This was a 1 day event, conference style event where we had different speakers, we had workshops, we had food, we had tacos, we had fun, and it was just a amazing healing day for us to celebrate fatherhood and and growing together as community. So, with that being said, I'm leaning more into community when it comes to growing this movement, asking for support, asking for help, something that, sometimes can be a little challenge for me to ask for that help and that support, but know that I cannot do everything on my own, right? So, yes, if you are able to support this movement, if you've joined us before, I want to invite you to support us in any way that you can. You can either like or share our podcast, subscribe, and do all those things to help us grow our reach to get more fathers and men to know about what we're doing here. Another way that you can support is also by donating either via Zelle or Venmo. I will leave the information on the show notes for YouTube if you'd like to donate. Um, or if you have a talent or a service that you're able to support us with, we are always welcoming that. We have fathers help us with our website. We have had fathers help us with the song for this podcast, and most recently, we had a brother help us with providing the coffee to our both our retreat and our Fatherhood Connection Summit. So I'm very excited to actually introduce to you our brother Brian Smith from Grinchos Coffee, that has been inspired by his own story of having parents from two different cultures, different countries, and coming together and embedding all that cultura into who he is and into the coffee that he sells and creates. So with his coffee, he is sharing the story, he is sharing cultura, he is sharing an intentional gift. So I'm excited to have him join me in this podcast to share his story. And if you like to learn more about Grinchos Coffee, please go to his website. The link will be on the show notes to learn more. And with that further ado, I would love to get started with our episode today with my brother Brian Smith.
It's
All right, brother. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm very excited to dive into our conversation today. Brian, ¿cómo estás? How are you today, brother?
pretty good. Happy Monday. It happens to be Monday today.
Yes, it does, bro. It happens to be Monday. Um, very close to summer solstice. Excited about that. But let's get started with some conocimiento. As always, start to get to know each other, share a little bit about your background, who you are with the audience, a little bit about your upbringing. So I'll
Sure.
pass it on to you, hermano.
Okay, first thing, I guess you could say, I'd like to mention that I'm a first generation born here in California because my mother, and also say I'm a son of migrants because both my parents came from two different places. Mom is a native Peruvian, Peru. She happens to be the oldest of her siblings. So she settled in San Francisco, and my father by way of Canada, Ontario. So I'm also sharing the heritage of English Canadian. So it was something that are destined to meet in San Francisco, as I mentioned. And here I am today.
Yeah, brother. Thank you so much. And that is amazing, right? It's kind of like the prophecy of the eagle and the condor coming together.
Yeah.
The southern tribes and the northern tribes, and that's beautiful. How was it for you, like growing up in this bicultural, bilingual household in San
Um,
Francisco?
let's see. Well, they only met in San Francisco. I was actually born north of San Francisco, Marin County.
Mm, mm-hmm.
Almost like any man takes back his new bride to his apartment.
Okay.
And at the time, his roommate was Peruvian. And this was the year 69. And the year before, prior, there was a revolution, if you want to call that term, in Peru.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that best friend saw the opportunity to go back because what they call agrarian reform was happening. And he said, I don't want to lose my family farm, maybe. I need to go back. And besides, my best friend got married, so I'm out.
Mm.
Anyhow, so I was born there. And I don't remember much because my father saw a work opportunity in San Jose area,
Okay.
coming to the top, across the bridge and crossing into San Francisco because he was commuting home that going north across the bridge daily. And
Mm-hmm.
mom too, because they met actually at work. And it was one of those times I guess it was more acceptable to do so because I'm hearing the story from my mother's side that it's from the get-go he showed his interest. And I knew that, but she just told me recently that, yeah, he flirted with me from the beginning. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like he knew what he probably wanted in life and he went for it. And that's
Mm-hmm.
the kind of I was raised too because they're both very resilient people.
Mm-hmm.
And being raised two different cultures, yes, because the concept of time, it was very different. One was very much on time, that would be my dad, and if you will, on the clock. And my mom was like, hey, cuando se puede, you know?
Okay.
I'm just getting ready. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, and I struggle with that a little bit to this day.
Mm-hmm.
But I know how time is important to everyone. A sense
Mm-hmm.
of clock time isn't. It's
Right.
what we live in.
Yeah.
So I was raised speaking Spanish first, actually. My
Mm-hmm.
first language is Spanish. We can do this in Spanglish even because obviously many people may be listening to it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, do that. But
Mm-hmm.
because my fathers are Chicanos, and we're
Mm.
surrounded by what is former Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
By, so I kind of even use some of the words, but I'm careful
Mm-hmm.
with what I say because my heritage is Peruvian. We have certain
Okay.
words a little bit different, yet the
Mm-hmm.
experience is the same, very similar.
Yeah.
And I grew up with the Chicano movement, the older generation, the 60s and 70s, before me, were the ones that poured into us as college
Right.
students back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
But his family that grew was the glue for my parents, because I'm the only child by my dad. I was even by my mother, and my father just said, "Hey, I'm going to be there for my son."
Mm-hmm.
And when I was born, he gave my name before it was even conception, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
my mother presented me, "This is your son, Brian." Yet he'll also speak Spanish first, and I'm very proud to say he would also say, "Okay,
Mm-hmm.
my winning." He didn't
Mm-hmm.
question her, didn't argue, wasn't putting his culture of being English Canadian again
Yeah.
onto her.
Yeah.
And that was pretty amazing to see that throughout their marriage
Mm.
and relationship. Never easy, but they had good communications. They learned to talk to each other in a good way as possible.
Yeah.
And, there's conflict, of course. Like any relationship, there's conflict.
Right.
So it was a
Yeah.
challenge for that reason, but I was raised more knowing the cultura of Peru and, if you will, the Latino or whatever term you want to call it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For the English side. But I know that's part of my heritage, and I know there's certain concepts that are coming to play.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you sharing a little bit about your upbringing and, being of like bicultural, like racial, um, and bringing both, right, to who you are, to who
Yeah,
how you come, how you represent, and also connecting to the Chicano movement allí in San Jose, and getting you know d diving into that movement, diving into that cultura, right, of decolonization y pues todo eso, I know San Jose is really big for danza and other culturas like lowriders and stuff. So that's great, being able to dive into that. Um, how did you bring your culture into these spaces where where you would come? How would you bring your own Peruvian or your own Canadian culture into, how you walk and who you are?
sure. To answer it simply, I think because I was born into it,
Mm-hmm.
I'm blessed for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was very much about representing Peru from the get-go almost. I was
Mm-hmm.
about 3 years old when she opened a retail shop. And after having me at home and doing the new mother thing and certain degrees, but she was kind of anxious to go back to work. But she already knew that she was probably going to do something different from when I was the time when they met.
Mm-hmm.
He says now part of her testimony is saying Creator must have put it into her mind and her heart to assist the people directly. So she opened a retail shop and she sold incredible amounts of alpaca sweaters. And I'll put a year on it. It was 74 because she saw there wasn't really much to do in the Marin County area
Yeah.
because it was a destination place. People were very touristy.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a sense of people coming to stay, and the local folks were into something else. It might have been after the 60s, but the population was in San Francisco was doing like that sort of thing going on. So she really was kind of not knowing what was happening in the world, if you will, because of course we had the Vietnam conflict, Chicano moratorium was about to happen, those kinds of things. But as a Peruvian woman, she's like, I want to represent the culture. And she did rather well in terms of the product being sold, if you will, because people appreciated
Mm.
handmade things,
Yeah.
appreciated because you're not just teaching something to make, you're
Yeah.
passing on probably life lessons to the person you're offering that weaving technique to, or to knowing those designs and colors.
Would she make them, or would she get them imported, or
Uh, by direct, you
by
know,
direct? Okay.
because she knew going to Peru and talking and having that relationship with the artisan
Mm-hmm.
was helpful. And she said, I value you because you said you need this much money and you now can offer maybe we call it in Spanish por mayor,
Mm-hmm.
for
For
quantity.
mayoreo. Mm-hmm.
So we've
Yeah.
been working,
Yeah, those sweaters are so warm. I have one of those. They're so really nice. Um, and now it sounds like you got inspired by your mother too to become that entrepreneurial and start your own business and also represent cultura, right? At the same time. So can you
absolutely,
tell me a little bit about the history of Grinchos, how this came about and the story of it?
of course. Grinchos is a self-given name because I look like my father. They have pale skin, so people don't think I know Spanish first or anything about Spanish
Mm-hmm.
or the culture that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I'm blessed by having the name Smith. Okay, big deal, but it's the most common name, but we all have common names if you really look at it.
Yeah.
And and it comes from a name of different talents, if you will. They might, but we're not Smith by trade. Although my father was into sales too, and he made the payments on the house by doing sales. He hustled on the phone, attended conventions, things like that. because again, as a person that came from another place,
Mhm.
this is all new to him. But he knew what he knew.
Mhm.
He knew about integrity. Your word is your honor. So I'm bringing the cultura of, if you will, the blanco or the gringo into it. So the
Mm.
name gringo comes from gringo and cholo, but it's also flipped because gringo is an understanding about the uniform. This cultura is very much metiche. It gets involved with so-called Latin American countries because we want to further our wealth or
Mm.
greed. And my father was the opposite. He was one to show up as a father, as a husband. He did
Mhm.
his best to say, I'm going to be there. And he was there, always present in my life. He's left the planet now 11 years ago, but
Mm.
I'm doing my best to remember him and say, what, Dad, you're in my DNA. You're
Mhm.
part of my lessons, and I thank you for your teachings and understanding the world because it's not easy.
Mhm.
But thank
Mhm.
you for your stories and your life experience. You gave me something
Mm.
to reflect on and consider my own decisions, of course, because you told me there's only consequence. Think about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been tough difficulties in life like anybody else, but knowing there's consequence kind of kept me so-called safe, and I made that decision. It wasn't because they gave me the safety net. You know, the safety net was my own self. If you're gonna fall, you're gonna where your decision is you're gonna fall forward, sideways, forward, whatever it may be, or fall period. But you gotta fall down to know you're gonna get up again.
Mhm.
And mine was raised the same way, and that's why I do the name Grinchos because Cholo comes from the Andes, Andean culture, Peruvian or Ecuadorian, Bolivia, because a person of indigenous or from the Andes, and that's my grandparents.
Mm.
I may have met in San Francisco. I'm sorry, in Marin, what is it, in Lima, or the
Mhm.
capital of Peru, but they were Andean people,
Mhm.
and they both have left the planet also. But I did have a pretty good relationship with at least my grandmother. So it's putting two words together because it's about identity for me. Is
Right.
and yes, I still say consider myself Chicano because I live here in this
Mm.
part of both, but at the same time also Grincho because I represent Gringo and Cholo in one. And this
Yeah.
works. And back in the day, there weren't very many Peruvians involved with the Chicano movement
Yeah.
at all. But there was before the generation before us, there was a lot more unity
Mm.
between the Chicanos, Peruvians, and Chilenos
Mm.
here in the Bay. But I happen to be in San Jose area because it's just kind of more divided for some reason.
Yeah.
Maybe also maybe because of technology, but it's
Yeah.
another.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. That's very inspiring, to be able to put these two words together and like this is who I am, this is what I represent. But your company or your brand is a coffee brand, right? You
Yes.
sell coffee. Tell me a little bit about like how you connected to coffee. Why is this
Mm-hmm.
important? And like how you like like why coffee, right?
Is that why coffee? Good question.
Yes, yes.
Um, because actually I lived in Mexico for some
Oh,
time,
okay. I didn't know that.
and I was thinking about coming back to California. Long story short, I was in a bad marriage. I didn't receive
Mm,
the honoring and respect that
mm-hmm,
I expected from this woman I decided to marry.
mm,
And unfortunately, migration came into play. They canceled her visa after 9 months of marriage and sent her back.
mm,
I had no idea that she was angry. I just knew that she was upset, of course, like me, but I took it as hurt because it was a surprise. It just came. I got a text from her saying, I'm going to back home. I'll talk with you later. And I was in the airport in LA with and I got questioned a couple times, but we didn't think about carrying paperwork with us. So she suggested maybe I ought to move here. I have ideas for us until we get this figured out. Because I did my best over here. We are very blessed to be in this country of agencies or services. I thought I would get any advice, but nobody seemed to know. Even the Mexican consulate. It was kind of frustrating. And I just hit every wall but I could, because of my heritage, it's difficult to say no to me or as a family. Because we'll find a way, not to hurt to someone, but you know what? To respect and to have due diligence, they call it. Just do what you can. And I was raised by a father that just told me do not use the word can't, because you can. Sí se puede, basically. And this came from, Blanquito, and I was very, wow, because he did it. He went through his challenges. And like he said, if you son can do the same. It's never easy, but you can do it. Just decide, just put your mind to it, and everything else will follow. Your heart, your spirit, your companion, maybe your wife that you decide to marry. But unfortunately, I didn't experience that. She was very angry. So I thought, if I'm living here, I got to think of something to find a living. And I really like the idea of representing the culture somehow. So I suggested that to her because we were blessed to have some entrepreneurial ideas, but it's always about what she wanted to do. It was very one-sided because she was mentioning about this. And now you're in my country, you're in my house, in my territory, blah blah blah. And what happened to me is in your country, your vote, your president. And I said, whoa, I didn't experience any of that because I married you after the elections, or I didn't even vote. I was with you and standing up for myself. But no, after a while, she's hurt, but she had an anger issue. And the way she expressed it was very hurtful. So I had a little bit of my dignity slowly kind of wearing away. And I said, no, I'm better than this. I would like to represent the culture, but in a way that's good. I want to go for handmade things. In the culture of Mexico, we know there's Café Tacuba, where Che Guevara and Fidel Castro and others met to decide something amazing that in a country that's so small, if you will, to have a so-called revolution. So I was inspired by that too, because I went to Café Tacuba beyond my expectations, but I've been there, and she was very proud of the country, so she said this. She took me to eat in the restaurant, and we said, not what I expected. Yes, saying I was expecting a totally different atmosphere and vibe, but I was just knowing that this place held something of people coming together for a change. And I said, that's something I want to do. So I started meeting some artisans, like handmade bags, and I settled on coffee because I went through the process that I need to represent Peru too. I wanted to do our brandy. I said, no, that's liability. I don't want to deal with alcohol and contribute to someone's further maybe problem. It's also liability by law. I don't want to be financially responsible for their mess up, if you will. It's also difficult to get a license because I went to research it. I considered chocolate. Okay, to this day, I do a little bit of chocolate. Good quality, 100% cacao, no sugar. It happens to be so-called organic without the certificate. So I thought, well, let's do coffee because at that time I had a good relationship. We prayed in the morning and said maybe some opportunity will come to us. We'll see. Let's be open. And we went to a market and there was coffee. And I met the woman that represented the coffee and she said, yes, it's a family business. And I looked at the label, USDA organic. And I said, oh, they're ready for import. Maybe it's a little message to take this coffee and try it. And we have a conversation with her. And that's what developed into that because I wanted something about myself, that dignity to restore it by saying something amazing is being tried and liked. And you can put a price tag on it because I'm not selling any kind of experience because everyone experiences coffee in a different way, like ceremony. I'm not selling that you're guaranteed a certain thing. I don't market that way, but it can open up your conversation maybe. I just get that way naturally. I'm excited for life because I don't drink this own coffee every day because I like to be healthy. Drink water, drink juice, be healthy, and move yourself. Like I think this conversation before me has been about move your body, you know. So coffee is exciting because everyone thinks of the first and foremost Colombia. Okay, they were first on the market. That's why it's considered the best. So it's about recognition that there's another good product out there. Other families are working hard, and I'm just working hard to represent as best I can. I mentioned their story, my own. You like it? Great. Let's go for it, And there's plenty of coffee around. There's other very good coffees with a good story that's sharing also. And it's about economics. Everyone's got bills to pay. They have bills to pay. I have bills. Okay, let's make it work together. Obviously, it's a little more expensive because our expenses are very expensive here, anywhere. But if I lived in Peru, of course, the value of the dollar is less, and I could probably certainly not charge as much as I do here,
Yeah.
rather than what they need. They ask for a certain amount, dale, give it to them.
Mm,
That's what they deserve and more.
yeah. That's amazing, brother. Thank you. Thank you
Like,
for that. I think coffee is a way that we really can unite, which is interesting because I'm just thinking about like when I go to Mexico, man, we drink so much coffee out down there, like in the morning. Every time we want to just sit down, drink some coffee, talk, and then at night too, right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a problem drinking a little cafecito at night. I love doing that, right? And just sitting by the table, sitting by the fire, and having a cup of coffee. Yeah, I try not to drink it as much on a daily, but I do like, maybe one or two cups a week, three maybe. I really enjoy that coffee, that cafecito. And it's good, right? It's good, like you said, like there's markets everywhere. Colombia, I know Guatemala has great coffee. So it's important for us to like just look at other alternatives, right? If s- there's like there's not only Starbucks or whatever, like those brand chain brand coffee, which I particularly don't care for. I would rather, support somebody in a small business if I can, right? And either way, those they have too much sugar anyways. So, so yeah, I think coffee once again is an amazing way to come together to talk about whatever you're going through. Um, there's something about it that really helps us to be able to just have a talk over a cup of coffee, right?
Yes,
Um,
and it's part of the cultura that's universal. Like you mentioned, there's other
right.
good countries from the world even. Because
Mm-hmm.
nowadays all comes from the, if you will, the motherland, the continent
Mm-hmm.
of Africa. Our relatives brought it
Right.
to us, and the others saw it as a commodity. Okay, we're going to trade with this, and we're just trading dollars for a product, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But our value needs to be, I think personally, is into the story, like we just mentioned. Because if you know the story of companies like Starbucks, I like to say Saint Arbucks, I should have corrected myself. But anyway, if you know if you want good quality of coffee, you got to go higher in the mountain. That's why
Mm-hmm.
they say that's is high elevation. Well,
Mm-hmm.
Peru is well known in the Andes, and then you're paying more to the worker to go further time to bring it back into the port and ship it and get it to the where it needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm okay with that because if you were to buy lower in the mountain like this other company, you're spending less and you're abusing the system in a way where you're going to make the almighty buck. And now I'm going to say it, but they're getting a bite in the ass because they're going out of business. They're chains and they're universal, they're worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
But I also saw, as I mentioned about earlier, they're buying an experience. I saw
Mm-hmm.
Mexico City, the same company, but people wanted to look like they were from the north, so they lure in there. They do the same thing in Peru. They're buying this image,
Mm-hmm.
no
Mm-hmm.
fault, you know? And that's why I said, just represent your family, have something to offer in the marketplace. Represent your family, know your backstory a little bit, your heritage. And it's like by far rewarding that way because I was born into the culture. My mother led tours when she was in my early childhood was with my cousins and friends. Without going into detail, but first time experiences to me came at 16. That most people wait till be on the down low over here. And I came back really bored because I said, what do you mean I gotta wait till I'm 21? What do you mean I gotta wait till I'm 18? You know, I was already doing it, but in the most healthy way because I was surrounded by family or
Mm-hmm.
friends at the same time. It's another cultura. We have this celebration about us.
Mm-hmm.
My course, my parents were a little concerned for me, but they knew there was trust with family
Yeah.
in a good place. Of course, I brought it on my own and had a girlfriend and blah blah blah. But you got to do what you got to do. As a male, it comes into play. And I guess it came, and that's why I don't have major mistakes in my life. It's just always a lesson to learn. Won't do that again. learn from that. Learn from that. If you don't want to do it again, just do it differently. So I had to leave that marriage because I came back to California, where I'm from. You know,
Mm,
I, this is where I need to establish myself. Yes, I know the local tribe. I participate with them. The ceremony of the bear dance is in Muwekma, Ohlone, and I side with them. They're ally, if you will, of another tribe. And I was very blessed because I came early in life too. After my first family was is Muwekma.
mm,
Yet Apache. They come from what do you call AIM background because they're Chiricahua Apache. The men are warriors. The women too. They're amazing. So they have that almost fighting spirit. Resistance is not the word I like to use, but they have a way to represent and be a little bit confrontational when necessary because the generation before us had a lot of
mm.
violence. And that's what led to the Chicano moratorium. The name
Yeah,
Chicano, because there's unity in one name, if you will.
yeah.
I'm not saying everyone needs to be Grincho, but just knowing a little bit more your background because there are a lot more Peruvians, Chilenos, Ecuadorians that I meet when I go to the marketplace. And they want to know their culture just like the Chicanos back in the day did.
Mm-hmm,
And that's why we talk about, the prophecy we mentioned about the eagle and the condor.
mm-hmm.
And it's just one Americas, if you will, one land base that we are all just different tribes trying to unite the best we can. Because we
Yeah.
do have a common opposing force that is once our land, once our resources, once our people.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
thank God my dad wasn't one of those. Yes, he was forceful in his way, but with words. He
Mm,
never hit my mother, but he really knew correction by saying, "Hey, pay attention to what you're doing." Just get my attention that way. It's like, oh, what's going on?
mm,
Be aware. Came to me that way. All I
mm-hmm.
could do, to put a little bit of fear into your child, maybe. And as a godfather, I do that. And now they're a little bit old. The oldest is oldest. He's a young man. He's now 24.
Mm.
He's well on his way. But we have good conversations to this day. Thank goodness.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, what do you feel so you say you're a padrino, right? Of this young man. What do you feel like the role of the padrino is for you? I know that, for many people it's different, but for you, what was that role for you? Helping, raise this young man.
Um, it came with my first marriage because I mentioned the second one.
Okay.
And she was actually from Peru.
Mm,
And the values I thought were pretty similar because besides a beautiful face, I thought she's obviously got smarts. And yeah, we can be padrino for this child together. Be something as a second parents, if you will. It was a baptism, but I also wanted to talk to the parents. I said, what is that about?
mm,
Catholic or going that way. But I said, okay, because I was at that time more into the native, almost 100%, if you will.
mm-hmm.
And it meant a lot to me because we did things as family. As I mentioned, my tribal
Yep.
family, we went to activities. We did not just ceremonies, but activities in the community as best we could to represent all tribes. And of course, and it was pretty amazing to be involved with something like that. I didn't go stick with Aztec dancing because back in the day it was very nationalistic. It was about Mexico only,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so we spoke Spanish. A lot of my coworkers, friends from the generation Mecha by then were like, okay, we're doing this together, but kind of looked at me like, but you're Peruano. I said, "Well, at least you're in Mecha." I knew the union was on my home campus, where we go to so-called meetings to get something done. But the dancer was just uncomfortable for me, so I stepped out of it. And I was blessed by an invitation to go to a Lakota ceremony, and to this day, it's what I do because men are involved, and that's when I stepped up. And to be a padrino is to step up for me.
Mm, okay.
He means to be in Peru. I can text him, call him. He calls me. We have communication. He's now 24. He wasn't like that always because he was a child and baby, I think, when I first baptized him.
Mm,
But I just knew development would be coming along, maybe spiritual too, because he's questioning. I was like, I'm Peruvian, but what else? And I said, Nico, that's up to you. You're gonna figure it out. But I can just give you some parameters. And I'm really proud of him because he lives in his home territory now. He moved from Lima. He's in his own boss, if you will. He makes his hours. He works from his laptop if he needs to. And it's a little what I do, and that's my life. Like I can work almost anytime I need to or want to, but I need to structure my life. I need to have intention. Like you mentioned, coffee is very intentional sometimes. It could be fast and espresso, whatever, because it gives you that sudden energy rush, but it's really doing something else for you. But it's just about being stepping up for the responsibility of their development, of not just their parent, because they have those maybe. And I'm blessed by the padrino. First time, he has good parents too. But I'm in a different role because we can talk about the maybe uncomfortable things. As a man, he wouldn't talk to his own dad about just yet. I said, yeah, just ask me anything. I'm an open book almost. Life experience is something I did, but if it helps you, it helps you.
I love that. So having like another man that he can go to ask questions and get those questions answered in an honest way, right? Yeah, so having a padrino that, I think as a man is really good to have another man that is not your father that you can go to, right? Ask those critical
Mhm.
questions, those intimate questions that maybe, you're not so comfortable asking your father. And that's the thing is I feel like as young men, sometimes we don't have those mentors, right? Those older hombres that can really guide us. And we see that in la cultura, right? There's a lot of young men that have this misalignment of what masculinity is or manhood. Um, so that's good that you were able to be that guiding light in a way to this young man, even in such a long distance, right? We can always call or text y todo eso, ¿verdad?
Yep.
So that's great. Um, what were some of the challenges that you experienced in terms of launching your business or are experiencing when it comes to launching Grinchos?
Um, a little bit maybe what I said earlier. People don't think of Peru having so-called good coffee,
Mm, okay.
and and it's very true. I mean, there is some crap out there, but because the story we mentioned is not shared the same, you
Mm-hmm.
know, well, the goal sometimes is actually for the buck, the dollar, and
Mm-hmm.
it leads to bad product, if you will. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they want to buy lower on the mountain, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
again, literally, and pay workers less because, well, we can keep them in economic poverty.
Mm-hmm.
I'm open to the idea of this, and I'm saying money is the only way, but it's
Mm-hmm.
certainly something that's a little more universal.
Yeah.
We all have bills to pay, as I mentioned earlier. But the challenge is just that understanding that, yes, we live in a system that happens to be what called capitalistic.
Yeah.
I'm proud of these families because they take care of their land. They take care of their families. They love their families. So I like
Mm-hmm.
to say family business, you
Mm-hmm.
know. As I mentioned, I'm continuing, my mother says, her legacy. She's an
Mm-hmm.
elder now,
Mm-hmm.
but she's still at it. This last
Mm-hmm.
weekend, we did all about her crafts from her shop and store and gallery and representing
Mm-hmm.
again. And that's how I was raised by seeing her do her thing. And I'm not entirely like her. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
like entirely like my father either, but I'm also who I am,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
the challenge would be just saying that I have bills to pay like you do, you know. And I said, it's very true. If you really want to not be part of the system, well, then please don't use your phone. Still, stop buying your shoes. But it's also consider where you're buying your shoes from, the origin, you know. There's
Mm-hmm.
good products, again, coming from the South. I still use them to this day
Mm-hmm.
for Mexico. They
Mm-hmm.
might have a small hole in the back, but wow, whatever glue they use, it's amazing. But it's also natural. It's leather. It's not synthetic. As I
What?
mentioned earlier, buying something of the earth that's more durable,
Yeah.
but it also goes away. It goes back into the earth. It's
Mm-hmm.
will not damage it. And
Mm-hmm.
if you plastic will last for
Yeah,
as long as
I think just becoming more conscious of what we consume, right? Because we're such a culture of consumerism and taking and and yeah, so it's like, which is important, where thinking about where these items come from. Were they made in a factory somewhere overseas, or were they actually made by some hands that took the time and the intention, and that is supporting the economic growth of an area too, right? And of a family, really. So that is
Hmm.
something to consider. And I just want to thank you, brother, for being an ally here of Latino Dot Connection, supporting the mission, supporting the purpose. You recently helped us with some coffee as well. Sponsor some of our events, our retiro that we just had, and our summit. That was really great. Having that the coffee already taken care of. It was amazing. So I just want to thank you for that. um, and is there any like last message that you would like to share with the compas? Anything that that we didn't mention that you would like to share?
Just reinforcing, I think it's sad to say a lot of things distill down to economics, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And as you mentioned, knowing the source, knowing the story where it came from is very, very important. And that's true
Mm-hmm.
too. And that's something I'm trying to express to my goddaughter too, because I have two.
Mm-hmm.
She happens to be a recent high school graduate,
Mm-hmm.
but she's on her way in the world. She's studying. And I can ask her the tough question, how are the boys, whatever it is, And she's like, like, but like, and I said, no, really, would you like to share with me? And she's, I'm studying. I'm busy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, good, in a way your head is down. You're not getting distracted by, that role, if you will, of girlhood, if you will. You're coming into your own womanhood on your
Mm-hmm.
own. You're developing your mind because that's something that constantly needs to happen. You're learning. You continue your education. Good for you. And whatever you decide on, you could just be happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
She's coming up in the world. Again, it's a little bit the boredom stage, but I get it. She'll have more conversations with me as we go along. Because right now she's just all about schoolwork, and I guess they're
Yeah.
really not in her head. But yes, I mean that's a way to support. Is that we are going to develop a promotional code if you want us to order some coffee online.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We're
Mm-hmm.
developing a scholarship fund for those that would like to attend these events with you all
Mm-hmm.
and be able to say we supported the coffee at first. Yes, but we're also supporting other compas and hermanos who would like to come into this, but maybe not able to quite afford it, you know?
Right.
$100 could be a lot for somebody, and $100 could be a little bit for somebody.
Yeah.
Why? It is what it is, you
Mm-hmm.
know? But we
Mm-hmm.
can help make it more available and access. It just opens up a little bit more of an opportunity for others.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not everything. I wish I could trade. And my
Yeah.
mom has craft still, but she's got to sell those to pay her rent. And she's done
Right.
that for nonprofit,
Mm-hmm.
not nonprofit for years. And it's again for since last year was 50th year. So she must be doing
Mm-hmm.
something right. But that's her personal struggle and a little bit of mine because I need to present myself in the marketplace, talk to
Mm-hmm.
people.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go to school for business, so-called business.
Mm-hmm.
I learned it because I watched my mom. And I learned from what she did. Learned from my dad. You know, you
Yeah.
want something, I'm not going to give it to you. You got to earn it. Go to work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was a little bit harsh to hear as a youngster, but I knew that was had to be done because I saw him doing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's true
Yeah.
for all of us. And that's the spark I want to translate to the whole America, starting with Peru, of course,
Mm-hmm.
because it is economically oppressed place too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very proud of my goddaughter, because she made the decision to probably leave her small town because her peers, younger than her, are getting pregnant. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad my responsibility to have that conversation with her. This
Mm-hmm.
is your choice,
Mm-hmm.
not guys. Find a guy that loves you for the other reasons besides that, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can do that? And I said, oh my goodness. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is why your godmother loves me. You initially asked me, because we have respect each other. boundaries or so-called filters and say no just means not yet.
Hmm.
You're delaying anything. You're just saying you're deciding that for yourself.
Right.
So that's the kind of message I like to express to all the people that as possible. Again, it's particularly for the compas. Just show up.
Just
Be
show
the
up.
man in some way,
That's right.
represent yourself as best you can and who you are,
That's
you
right.
know.
Just show up. Just show up. Beautiful, brother. Well, thank you so much for joining, for sharing your story, sharing your coffee. Yeah, we'll have a promotional code that will be created that way you can support Grinchos and support us. And one of the things that you said too is like you're doing this for a common good, right? You know, we help each other, we grow together, and we continue uniting. So, muchísimas gracias, Brian M. Smith. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, brother.
Okay, muchas gracias también. Thank you.
Adiós, hermano.